I hope you're happy. Hope you're happy with yourself, man. I mean, you're down in Orlando, and I'm sure you've heard from your wife or your kids. I mean, super cold, sideways snow, 30-degree winds. I hope you're happy with yourself, man. Are you ever coming home?
Well, it's I appreciate you asking. Appreciate you checking in. My flight got delayed coming back by a couple hours. I'm supposed to be back this evening, but looks like I will be spending at least a couple more hours in Florida. So, it's tough, but, some of us have to take one for the team, I guess.
Ben Goessling covers the Minnesota Vikings in expert fashion for the Star Tribune at StarTribune.com, at Ben Goessling via Twitter or the X Machine to find that cool Star Tribune story on the process through which Kevin O'Connell and staff navigate when considering drafting a face of the franchise quarterback. Excellent read. What resonates with you off what he shared, Ben?
Well, I thought it was interesting, and I knew kind of their thought process on the pro days a little bit beforehand because everybody kind of got worked up last week about them not being at J.J. McCarthy's pro day. But it was interesting to hear him kind of lay out a large part of the process of how they go about it and really the stuff about getting guys on film to talk through their own college offense and then talk through some Vikings concept and then going immediately out to the practice field and looking at that as a way to see how does this guy take coaching, I thought was really interesting. He's trying basically to see as close as he can what is it going to be like to work with this guy on a Wednesday where it's, hey, we're working on, red zone or third down or something, and we're teaching in the classroom and we have to go out and execute it right now. And if you don't do it the right way and I tell you, hey, I want you to take this drop differently or set your feet differently here or whatever it happens to be, how are you going to react to that? So a lot of this becomes easier to do and easier to measure when they are in control of the process as opposed to the pro days where it's typically a script and they put the whole thing together and the coaches don't really get a lot of input in how it all goes. I think that's a lot of why they've gone this way. And it was interesting to hear some of the ways that he goes about it and different things he tries to use to peel back the layers on a lot of these players.
Keeping Justin Jefferson in the loop was not surprising, but and I'm being serious with this, and I know Justin, is more accomplished than Jordan Addison. But I mean, like, if I'm Jordan Addison and I read that, I'm low key. I'm a little bit like, what about me? I mean, I'd like to know what's happening too here, because it does impact me as in Jordan Addison. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that. I mean, obviously, he's going to be a guy that is affected by this as he goes through the rest of his rookie deal, and then possibly if he signs an extension here going forward. I think it's possible he's doing that with Addison too. It's just that Jefferson got asked about yesterday, so he laid out a little more of that. But I do think Jefferson is in a different spot, both because of what he's accomplished and the fact that he is going to have, I think, a larger leadership role on this team next year than he has. I mean, he was a captain last year, and Kevin O'Connell's talked about that a couple of times. But I think he's going to have a larger voice in that locker room. If you think about the guys that they lost, whether it's Danielle Hunter, who didn't have a loud voice, but obviously a guy that's been around a long time, certainly Kirk Cousins, Jordan Hicks. I mean, a lot of the veterans in that room are gone, and Justin Jefferson now becomes one of the more accomplished players in that locker room, certainly from what he's accomplished on the field, but also just the number of years he's been around. You very quickly become one of the guys that has the most experience on the team, especially when they're going to be as young as they are. And I think that had a little bit to do with why he's working with him on this process as well. And just, let's be honest, they're trying to get a contract done with him. He's a guy that you need to keep in the loop and keep happy as you're trying to get all this done.
And on that, Ben, any chance they don't acquiesce to Jefferson's contractual demands? Let him play out the 24 and franchise him in 25 for like $21 million.
I mean, it's certainly a possibility. I know they have thought about that. I mean, I certainly just with regard to it's an option. I mean, they can do it, and I suppose really could do it twice. I don't think anybody wants to do that. I don't think anybody feels like that would be good for Justin Jefferson, wouldn't be good for the relationship with the team. I don't think that's going to come to that point. I think their approach has been kind of what they've said. Let's make him the highest paid receiver in the league. They haven't really been shy about that. It's just trying to get the thing done is going to probably take a little bit more time. I would expect that happens more in the summertime if it's going to happen this year. And I think it will. But, they certainly could use the franchise tag if they needed to do it. But players don't like them. It just doesn't tend to bode well for the long term. So I think if they can avoid having to press that button in the case of emergency, they will try to do it however they can.
Let's take out the top three teams, all right, with the draft a month from Thursday. So just with your discernment and a right to change the take if you get steam or whatever, Cards, Chargers, Giants. Where's the sweet spot to find that fourth quarterback? Cards, Chargers, Giants.
Well, I think the Cardinals have to be where you look first, because if you're picking QB4, you are not the only team that is going to be in the market for that player. I mean, the Broncos, I think, are going to be exploring the possibility of a move up as well. You're going to have, I suppose the Raiders could. There are going to be a few teams in that range that would look at the possibility. So if the top three guys are off the board and you like one of those enough to go up and get him, that would probably J.J. McCarthy in this scenario, I think you have to do everything you can to say nobody else can jump in front of us. We need to make sure that we are the next team picking the next quarterback, and this isn't really up to anybody else but us. I think if they can get to three, and I know this isn't the premise of your question, but I think if they can get to three, that is certainly a lot better. It gives them a lot better chance to get probably Drake May. But, yeah, I think you have to move up as high as you can in that scenario, because there's already a lot of it that they don't control. As Kevin O'Connell said, you need another team to be complicit in your plan to move up. You need to have somebody else that agrees to the trade, and I think they would try to eliminate as much of that guesswork as they can.
All right, last one, 90 seconds. I'm saving a fair amount for next Tuesday when we see you, if indeed we see you. And great work sharing all these new Vikings deals and what they look like. You can also see that at Ben Goessling via his Twitter feed. And it seems corner Shaq Griffin and the $4.5 million package with a guaranteed base means he's a cinch to be on the team, right?
Yeah, he is. And it was interesting even today, and I just finished writing about this. Kevin O'Connell talked about we want to play more man coverage next year. So this scheme that we saw with Brian Flores last year, and I kind of wondered how much of that was this is the best solution for the 2023 Vikings, and it maybe isn't going to be the thing that we hang our hat on in the sense of the zone coverage behind all the pressures forever. It certainly sounds like they want to play more man, and part of why they went after Shaq Griffin is he's a physical enough corner with enough length and size to do that. We'll see how effective he is in that regard, but I think he starts. Kevin O'Connell said it today. They want Byron Murphy playing more in the nickel where they feel like he's probably best suited to be. And then, whether it's Evans or Blackman on the other side, you figure that out, or maybe it's even somebody you bring in later. But I think Griffin, both for the man coverage, for the ability to press a little bit, and then the freedom to move Murphy is certainly going to be a big part of it. And the contract would tell you as much, because they aren't paying a guy that much if they're not planning for him to be a big part of the lineup. And I think a lot of what they want to do is going to look different defensively. And, we're going to see probably three corners more often, maybe a little bit less time for Harrison Smith to take some of those snaps off of him, off some of that wear and tear. And as part of that, you need guys you can count on, guys that have done it. And I think that's what they're hoping Shaq Griffin's going to be.
Safe travels, my brother, and I'll see you soon, all right?
All right, sounds good.
Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, joined 9 to noon, an hour and change ago, and offered thoughts on quarterbacks Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and J.J. McCarthy. Hear all of that when we replay it next.
Welcome back, 9 to noon, and Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. He's down in Florida as part of the NFL owners' meetings. He joined PA near the beginning of the show today, and you can hear the entire interview. It was a long one, nearly 27 minutes of chatter between the Vox and the head coach, but we're going to kick off a large portion of this where PA just kind of said things to start, like, What are the owners' meetings like? How are things going down in Florida? What's happening with everything at the NFL owners' meetings?
Yeah, it's a unique time of year for sure. There's a lot of, most teams, if not everybody, has turned the page, fully invested into the 2024 plan and beyond. Free agency's kind of come and gone. It's still going on in some phases. There's a lot of quality players still available, looking to find their homes for 2024. But the draft process is full bore, and whether it's pro days, the combine's now completed. You've got a great initial feel for a lot of prospects. There's a lot of dialogue going on amongst the teams, formally, informally, here in Florida, about maybe what that draft is going to look like, who's picking where, teams that potentially want to move up or down. There's a lot of those things going on. So as the process continues to play out, more pro days this week, potentially some private workouts, visits. We'll have our 30 visits coming up here in a couple weeks where they come to the Twin Cities to spend some time with us. And then, hopefully the picture starts to become as clear as clear as possible as we work towards the end of April. And pretty critical, exciting time for the Minnesota Vikings. I know that.
Well, KOC, they went out and got you a second first rounder for the draft. During a free agency period, 66% of your new players fancy the defensive side of the ball. So, I mean, it's a cinch now that you draft offense, offense, right?
Yeah, I think we're still. I'm really excited about what we've been able to do defensively in free agency. Whether it's adding really impactful pieces like a Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, just to name a few. We've solidified our depth along the interior of the defensive line with some guys that will really play well as pieces around what Brian Flores is trying to do. And then I think, bringing back Harrison Smith was a huge, huge thing for me. Let's just call it what it is, PA. Since we've arrived here in 2022, we've had some of our more impactful leaders move on to other opportunities, and getting Harrison back in the fold once he decided, he was giving it a go to play football. The best thing about it was he wanted to be a Minnesota Viking. He loves the fans of in the Twin Cities and Vikings fans all over the world. I mean, it means a lot to Harrison Smith to be a Minnesota Viking, and I know our fans feel great about Harrison and the career he's had here, and that it's going to get a chance to continue. And I can't wait, quite honestly, till we get to see him run out of the tunnel week 1 or whenever it is. We get to open up U.S. Bank Stadium this year. There's very few sounds like the sounds of our fans when one of their favorites, Harrison Smith, comes running out of the tunnel. I look forward to that.
Yes, sir.
Once again.
Yes, sir. And offensively, meanwhile, a motivated, healthy Aaron Jones was added to the mix. I mean, holy cow, that's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, I just, there's few times, PA, when, through free agency, and especially as early as that happened. And look, every team has to make decisions based upon what's best for their own salary cap situations. But to put it, very bluntly, I was running through the halls of TCO Performance Center when I found out that would be a possibility. I may or may not have reached out to Aaron and let him know that I would make the drive to come help pack his things there in Green Bay and get him back to the Twin Cities as fast as possible. And I think the coolest thing about it is there's really two aspects of it. When you talk to a Justin Jefferson, or you talk to a Harrison Smith, or you talk to some of the guys that have been Vikings and competed against Aaron, their excitement level of adding a player like him, who we have a lot of experience going against and know the impact that he has on the game, their excitement was obviously pretty cool for me to see in my dialogue with those guys. But then also Aaron's excitement about joining the Minnesota Vikings, and, from his experiences playing at U.S. Bank Stadium to understanding what it means, the passion of our fan base, knowing what it's going to mean to be a part of it. And I think that's why we were so fast to wrap our arms around Aaron and let him know that we were really, really excited about adding him to our organization and what he's going to do on and off the field for our team. And I think he's going to be really, really impactful for our offense when you start talking about a running back room that contains him and a guy like Ty Chandler, among others, that we feel really strongly about building around that room now.
Hey, Kevin, with the draft 30 days away, is this a draft where there are quarterbacks, say, that will be taken Saturday, so third day of the draft, who have at least a decent chance of getting second contracts as starters, or is it not quite that deep?
No, I think, PA, it's just going to be a matter of where those guys go off the board, because there's no question, the guys at the top of the draft, and rightly so, have a chance to have a big-time impact on whatever organization that's lucky enough to get those guys. But you're right. I think there's other names. I think there's other guys as you work through the process here where who knows where that player's ceiling might end up being. And, that's where does that player end up going on day two? Like you're saying, does that player kill the process and end up, with a lot more teams being fans of those guys, that they end up sneaking into the end of round one, or, kind of in that pick 20 to 35 type range. I think all of that is possible. I do think it's a good class of quarterbacks this year, and something that we've really had our eye on. I know here in Minnesota, long before this process started, just knowing the type of players that would be available at that position. And I know for us, having a pick 11 and pick 23 and the flexibility that's going to give us, but also think about it from a standpoint if we don't move up or we don't move back based upon where we plan on possibly selecting a quarterback. I do think there's going to be a lot of offensive players coming off the board in addition to those quarterbacks early on. There's some elite receivers. There's some pretty big-time special offensive linemen, tackles, guys that will probably step right in and start playing. You could be looking at that first defensive player going off the board, PA, right around our pick at 11, maybe right before, and what that looks like, possibly taking a player that, would be a top 3 to 4 pick in maybe last year's draft, and now they're possibly available to add to your defensive front or your back end, whatever it is. It's exciting. So we've got to take all of that information into account and ultimately know that, we're going to be aggressive. But at the same time now with those two picks that we have, we feel they're very valuable picks in the same draft, in a deep draft. And I think it's an exciting time. All compliments to Goessling for going out and making that move early on in the process. So now we can really plan accordingly, both in our attempts to possibly move, but at the same time have the chance to add two really, really impactful players, regardless of the position in a deep draft like this year's.
And KOC, everybody's talking about all these players, and a lot of the same names come up after that trade with Houston. And, man, I've been dying for a couple of weeks to ask you about one. What do you think about Stanford kicker Joshua Carty? I mean, it looks from afar like the kicker job might be up for a battle, right?
You know what? Your excitement about that, it's equally felt by me, PA. It really is. I will tell you this much. We're excited about adding a guy like Romo, to the equation, who we added. This guy, we've done a deep dive and was able to get our eyes on him at kind of a kicking showcase that took place, and he was lights out there. A lot of times kickers in their journey around the NFL, you look at some of the best kickers in our league right now. Yeah, you've got the Justin Tuckers of the world who have been elite from day one, but you've got some other guys who have took some pretty unique paths to trying to find a home, and once they're able to do that, they take off from there, albeit maybe another league, like the Dallas Cowboys were able to do last year and get a guy in there that I don't think he missed a kick until the playoffs, or maybe a guy like a Matt Gay, who we had in L.A., who had kind of bounced around, had been in Tampa, and then he ends up being a kicker on our team that helps us win a world championship and then signs a big deal with the Colts. So I think there's a lot of routes you can go. I do think that there's some talent in the draft, like you said, and, where those guys come off the board, potential additions from as the free agency process continues, all that's on the table, for us. And in addition to still keeping our tabs on Greg Joseph and the big kicks that he's made for us over the past couple of years, as well.
Now, just a few more here. Thanks, Kevin O'Connell at the owners' meetings in Orlando, and with what you hit on the quarterbacks a couple of minutes ago. With Jaden Daniels, can LSU's Jaden Daniels thrive in a pocket-based offense, or does he need to get out there like Jalen and kind of improvise?
No, I think he absolutely can. I think he's proven that. When you really dive into his tape, that's one of the exciting things about a player like Jaden Daniels is, that clearly he's a guy that when he does take off, and a lot of times his best, most impactful plays running the football come as an extension of passing plays where, he's gone through a progression. He's exhausted 1 to 2 to 3. And then with really good technique and fundamentals, ball security, able to climb up and out of the pocket. And really when he takes off from that point, there's really no angle that's safe for a defender because of the speed that he has in the open field. Clearly he's going to have to be smart about when he has the football in his hands, not being the biggest, strongest guy in the world. He's going to have to be smart about it to maintain his ability to stay on the field. He knows that, he's proven that in his Heisman Trophy season that he's got the ability to do that. He's definitely an exciting prospect, and he goes, whether you're talking about Jaden or some of these other guys in the draft, I think those are the types of things. Each guy kind of has, maybe different strengths and things that they're going to hang their hat on, but all of them, I do think when you're talking about some of these guys at the top of the draft and where that line is drawn, we'll kind of keep that between the folks inside the walls of our building and for right now. But I can tell you I'm very excited about not only Jaden, but the potential of a lot of these guys that will be in the mix to maybe become Minnesota Vikings.
Understood. And what, if anything, did Josh McCown tell you about Drake May from their days together at that Charlotte high school?
Yeah, Josh and Drake have a previous relationship that's a really, really good one. Josh has known Drake for a long time. I think, when we talked to him at the Combine, Drake was more interested in talking about, a potential a foul call that Josh McCown had on him when they were playing pickup basketball back in the day. So the immediate controversy picked up right where they left off in previous conversations about that as soon as he walked in the door. But we had a blast talking to Drake. I know Josh, feels really strongly about Drake. He feels strongly about, his relationship with him and maybe where Drake projects as an NFL quarterback. It's been fun diving into this process. I know myself, having gotten to know some of these guys previously through their tape from 2022 and then seeing what they were able to do, building upon that in 23 and where they may project. But I think another cool factor, one of the things I thought about with bringing Josh, to the Twin Cities, I think he's going to end up having a chance to be one of the better quarterback coaches in the National Football League, not only because of his playing career and what he meant to so many quarterback rooms, but he's got such a unique perspective and how to relate to players and communicate with guys. Can't wait to see Josh get to work with our guys. But also, PA, think about it, he just went through, a process in Carolina last year of potentially trading up and acquiring a quarterback of the future type player and getting to bring that guy in the building. And we're now able to, not having gone through it with Josh, but we're able to lean on that experience, the things that worked really well, the things throughout the evaluation process maybe he would have done differently, and we can then apply that to our process here in Minnesota. And couldn't say enough to you this morning about the great start Josh is off to and where, the big-time part of the process he's going to play throughout the rest of the spring.
I know accuracy with a quarterback is first and foremost with you. I mean, you've said it a million times. It obviously matters a ton. But, Kevin, is it fair to say that you heap a lot on your quarterback? So, therefore, with accuracy, the composure part and the ability to process quickly. I mean, like those two are as important as accuracy almost, right, with a rookie?
Yeah, I think, a lot's been said, about our offense and what we put on the quarterback's plate and all those things. I think in any type of offense in the NFL, regardless of what you're doing schematically, what strengths of your quarterback or your other offensive players you're trying to really highlight. In the end, our job as coaches, PAs, to put together an offensive system that maximizes our chance to have success. And you've got to take into account what you're asking your quarterback to do. You got to take into account what you're asking the other 10 guys in the huddle to do, how you get your guys to play fast, play with confidence, be aggressive, and be able to turn it loose on Sundays is the ultimate goal. And I think that's what coaching is all about. Is you're going to try to build a system, but in the end, that system needs to have the flexibility and the ability to adapt to what your group that year does really well and what you can ultimately do best to move the football. Where it becomes difficult at times is when you've maybe built that offensive system for particular players, and then those guys on a week-to-week basis maybe do not become available, and you're having to, on the fly adjust. What we learned last year is, we had some really great moments. Once, obviously we overcame the significant loss of losing Kirk after winning against San Francisco, and we're beating the Packers 24-10 at Lambeau Field, and we lose Kirk, and now we're kind of in a mode where we were trying to go week to week from there, trying to do what was best, whether it was Jaron Hall for about 12 plays, and then Josh Dobbs, after showing up 5 days before, is out there beating the Atlanta Falcons and then the New Orleans Saints, and then before you know it, we're in a place where Nick Mullins is throwing for 400 yards against opponents, and we're trying to just reinvent ourselves as much as we could based upon where we were at in the season to try to win football games. And ultimately, we learned a lot as an organization. I know I learned a lot as a coach, as a play caller, and I'm hoping a lot of those lessons learned will only help us as we move forward into 2024 with Sam Darnold and some of our other guys in the quarterback room, and potentially a young quarterback as well. But I'm always going to try to do what we think is best as an offensive staff and myself for our players, by our players, and ultimately put those guys in the best situations to have success.
Last one here, my brother, and I greatly appreciate the time. What do you see in J.J. McCarthy when you break down all the plays?
I see a guy that, maybe he didn't have the type of volume, PA, that some of the other guys in the draft had as throwers. And I think that's kind of been talked about a lot, but I don't know how valid that is, just because some of the other volume of attempts that you see from other players in the draft, they might just be bubble screens and RPOs and just kind of spitting the ball out as extensions of the run game. So really, when you start talking about something beyond the stat sheet, beyond the box score, I think you can dive into the tape and see some things that J.J. McCarthy did that maybe some of the other guys in the draft didn't do. He did play under center. He did play in a world where he was part of a strong run game that they tried to marry the run and the pass with play action and keepers. And then I think when you turn on JJ's third down tape, you see some pretty high level production. And what does that normally lead to? Winning football games. When you run the football and you have a quarterback that can execute at a high level on third down, you sustain drives, you have a chance to push the ball into the opponent's side of the field and eventually down into the red zone where you hope to come away with touchdowns and not field goals. But JJ's got some really strong tape. He clearly has a makeup of a guy that's won a national championship. I think he's lost, I don't know what the exact number is, maybe 3 games since he was about 12 years old. So this guy's a winner. And there's a lot to really continue to dive into on a prospect like JJ. Looking forward to spending some time with him over the next few days, and really getting to know him, but also importantly, letting him get to know us and, what potentially, just like some of the other quarterbacks, hopefully get a feel for is that, if my name gets called by the Minnesota Vikings, that's a really positive thing for me based upon the play caller, the head coach, the offensive weapons, the offensive staff, Brian Flores coaching the defense with some really good players on that side of the ball. And, oh, by the way, the best fan base in the National Football League. So we're not only trying to get to know them, we want these guys to get to know us and what it's going to be all about to become a Minnesota Viking, because we want everybody. If we're able to add a quarterback in this draft, and we want everybody in the draft room. We want everybody in our locker room. We want everybody watching at home to be standing and clapping, and that includes hopefully the player that we're selecting.
As Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell with PA this morning, 9 to noon, live from the NFL owners' meetings in Florida. You'll be able to podcast that entire conversation. There was more to it, believe it or not, later on today after the show. Final segment, putting a wrap on things around the corner. It's 9 to noon.
I can't wait. And thank all of you very much for listening to 9 to noon today. We are back at it tomorrow from 9 until noon. The only thing pertinent from the local sports scene, in my estimation, that was missed during the course of 9 to noon, and it just happened like 45 minutes ago. It's National Football League related, and Greg Joseph, former Minnesota Vikings kicker. Well, he signed with the Green Bay Packers.
Oh my gosh.
Aaron Jones for Greg Joseph.
Oh my gosh. Above average at that.
Wow. I mean, look at all of the drama for the 2024 NFL season that is super thick right now. Like 11-23, what you going to do? Bob Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots, quoted at the owners' meetings, I believe yesterday or early today, as saying, the paraphrasing, for my Pats, getting the quarterback situation stabilized, that's the A topic. But then, Mr. Kraft added, but we realize there are going to be a lot of desperate teams.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's from the anti-Vike at 12, the Vegas team at 13. I ain't ruling out the Giants. At 6, you're moving up a little or sitting there and trying to do something. So you got that. All right, that's thick and it's meaty and it's rich and it's succulent. So then you fast forward to the Minnesota Vikings regular season. All right, well, there's already a London game. So you got a London game. And you have Kirk O'Chains coming back to U.S. Bank Stadium with the Falcons.
Oh my gosh.
And now maybe 2 against Greg Joseph, kicker for the Green Bay Packers.
Oh my gosh.
This is unbelievable how thick and meaty this whole thing's becoming.
No, it's sweet because, I mean, not only did they pick the wrong Carlson when they got Anders over there, that, best of luck to Greg. He provided great moments. I think one of his seasons here, he had 5 walk-offs or 5 game-winning field goals. That's great. He missed a lot of extra points from 50-plus. It was dicey at times. So, best of luck to him over there. I think if we're talking about Aaron Jones and Greg Joseph and making that swap, I like how the Vikings fared. I'm still saying it, PA. We have the capital advantage when it comes to moving up and getting a QB if it does become that rat race with the anti-Vike and or the Vegas Raiders. Because in the end, that 23, that move that KOC made is indeed the trump card. But back to your 30 for 30 bit earlier. What if we could keep 23? How all that works. I mean, it's only getting juicier as we get closer to draft day.
And when I brought up kicker in the 25-minute Kevin O'Connell chat, I mean, it was as an aside, kind of a joke, to set up some different questions about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I asked about the Stanford kicker and KOC, KOC likes to give long-winded answers every so often. I didn't expect to get one on the kicker, and Romo, the TikTok kicker, he had some nice things to say about TikTok guys. So who knows what's next with the kicker?
I wish you would have referred to him as so what's up with the TikTok kicker? What do you think? Is that how you found him?
Right. Well, I'm sure there will be much more on which to opine tomorrow, and we look forward to chatting with you. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Paul Allen, and here comes Nordo with a wrap on the show.
And the wraps 9 to noon are brought to you by Casey's. And I look outside with that snow, and I'm just thinking, if I go and get an elite Casey's pizza and eat lunch at home, it's going to be amazing. Go to Casey's today. Early in the show, we had KOC. Wondering what he thinks about all the rookie QBs. Vox gets him on the phone. You're like, ask him. Insert name here. He says, I'd be happy if we draft him. So it seems there's no conclusion. We'll keep on trudging through mock draft delusion. From LA to New York and even Ontario. We're covering all ground, each and every scenario. I'm tired, though, hunting for inside steam, looking at the snow more sideways than the hockey team, lips tighter than seams, on Sauce's jeans. It's not his fault, it's glandular, it's in his genes. 30 for 30 in just a heartbeat. 15 talkers worthy to repeat. Shout out to delivery drivers in this snowy state. Charge's inflatable doll, well, I'm sorry, it can't wait.
And Daniel Carlson with a chance to kick the Vikings to the lead in overtime. 49-yard drive on the left hash. Snap spot. Right-footed Carlson kick is up, and it is no good. Missed again.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.